All right. Hello, everyone. We are back. Money Mobsters, number 21. The boys are back. Dougie held it down last week. I had some other stuff to attend to, but Dougie held it down. But we're back in action today. Both of us, full agenda. We're gonna have Ceej joining us here in a bit, and he's gonna do his thing. He's gonna cook a little bit. So we should have a good show. As always, this is not investment advice. Just a few guys sharing their due diligence and what they found. So, Dougie, what's up, man? How's your week?
Man, it is getting busy. We are getting close to the international rocket competition, and so I am getting busier and busier with my mentoring activities that I'm taking on for some of these universities, and we've had some people in the mentor role drop out over the last week because they couldn't do the travel. So I got assigned a couple of additional schools. So I've been scrambling to get up to speed on those. But it's been really interesting. I had some amazing news come through the pipe over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, the mentorship's paying dividends. It's coming through. They're getting the results.
Yeah. The couple of the students that I work with here in Houston, I'm actually sending them your way. One of them, the project manager, she got a position as a PhD in physics at Arizona State. So she's going to be doing that. And then the chief engineer got a job at Lam Research supporting the Intel fabricator out there.
Yeah, so there's some big wins. I want to see the W's in the chat, in the comments. But yeah, for those who don't know, Arizona, huge semiconductor industry. We have obviously the TSMC plant out here, but Intel's been out here for decades and decades. You even had Motorola out here. So Arizona is kind of slept on in terms of the defense and aerospace semiconductor technology areas. But it's a super, super business-friendly environment, and ASU's really been leaning into that. And love to see friends move out to Arizona. And it's cool that, me and my fiance will be able to, make new friends, ease them into the transition so they'll get to know a new social circle and won't have to, do it the hard way. They'll have friends who will be able to show them around and give them the tips and tricks. Yeah. You know what? Something I didn't tell you yet, and I don't know if he told you. Do you know who else is moving out to Arizona?
Who?
Erwin.
Really? No,
yeah.
I hadn't heard that. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, the whole party's going there. All right.
It's happening out in the desert, man. I'm telling you.
I came for a visit, and everybody else is like, all right, we'll just move.
Exactly. They're doing it permanent. But yeah, it's a great time out here in Arizona. Like, just the city's growing, it's expanding, business is booming. So far, like, the politicians, other than the ones that we send to DC, have some common sense. So it's nice to see, especially if you like juxtapose that across some of the states that aren't having common sense. It's like kind of day and night. And yeah, there's lots of room to build. They're fostering a lot of industry. Obviously, everyone knows that Taiwan has a unique risk to it when it comes to semiconductors. So they're really, really pushing on building out that manufacturing industry base here in Arizona. Really, the main struggle is water. So, like, depending on the conclusion that you come to with how much water Arizona will have and for how long, it's usually the main consideration. But it's still medium cost of living. It's not crazy like California is or like Austin has gotten. It's still a very medium cost of living city. I like it out here, man. If you can handle the heat, just be ready for a little bit of like staying indoors for the 3 months in the hotness of summer during the daytime, because it does feel like you're walking in an oven. In Houston, I'm sure it feels a little bit more like a sauna mixed with a steam room.
It has been like mid 80s, but it's like the temp feels like 100. It is like literally the dew point has been like in the 70s for the last couple of weeks. It has been absolutely disgusting outside.
Yeah. Whereas like out here, like it does get hot. You do get smacked in the face with the raw heat, but it's super dry. So kind of the moisture just like wicks away. So you
And
don't
it
end up
does
with.
cool off at night, right?
Yeah. So here's how I'll put it. 9 months out of the year, it does cool off at night. Once the sun goes down, it's 85, 90 tops, which sounds hot, but when it's a dry heat, it literally
It's still
feels
comfortable.
like 70. Yeah, it's comfortable. It's fine. Like I wouldn't recommend running, like going for a long run at 8 p.m. at night in July because it like when your starting temperature is 117 on July 15th and the sun goes down, congratulations, you now have the new low temperature of 107.
Yeah.
So it's the morning. You want the morning if you're going to be doing outside physical stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's just been disgusting here. And I was like, oh man, I wish I was somewhere it was dry. But I am going to the desert next week for the whole week.
It's why we got the spare bedroom, dude. You're welcome over anytime.
Fantastic. I'll definitely be hitting you up for that.
Dude, while we're getting into a little bit of like
So yeah, so what's going on in your life then?
the personal life section
You
here,
have some news.
I do have some news. Hopefully, it is still here when I go to the dealership tomorrow. The dealership tomorrow. Ooh, what's he buying? Oh, he's buying a blue sports car because he wants to go fast on his commute to work and have a little bit more fun. Um, so this would be the first car that I ever buy brand new. Right now I have kind of a beater car. I've been driving the same car for a decade, preaching to the Dave Ramsey choir. Well, not really preaching, but subscribing to in terms of the cars, because that's always the thing that gets Dave Ramsey going is the cars, right?
Yep.
So this is the Toyota, very sensible Toyota. It would cost like $37,000. I'd be out the door for like 40 once you include all in like the mandatory stuff. But Toyotas, they just run forever, and this one, it kind of checks all the boxes. You got the suede seats, which is a big deal out in Arizona. Instead of leather seats, you need the suede seats so you don't end up, with 150-degree leather on the bottom of your pants or shorts, even worse, right?
Okay.
We've got the stick shift there, 6-speed. I took it for a test drive yesterday, and oh boy, I'm with Matt on this one. I sat down not wanting to like it because like it's just so much cheaper to have my paid off car that I don't even have to have comp and collision on because it's so
Right.
cheap. Why would I? And then you test drive this thing and you're like, oh, I think I might need this in my life. Um, she really is happy above 6,000 RPM, which is exciting. But look at the back seats. So this is just what it looks like normally. They call it a 4-seater, but man, this is a 2-seater with some
All right. Are
storage
you
in the
just
back.
going like full like high school car stereo nerd on it, or?
Well, so there's just no space back here, right? You're not fitting an adult back there unless you hate your friends and family. Um, you can fit a dog back there. That fits my purpose. Fitting a dog back there and maybe some groceries. The back seat folds down and gives you a huge trunk, so it is Costco approved. I do have to improve the stereo, but that's really my only complaint about it. So I was nice and excited to pick this up. I'll pick it up tomorrow, or I'll sign for it tomorrow, I should say.
Okay.
Because my alternative is like I could get something really boring like a Camry and still spend 35 grand. This is only like $3, $4, $5,000 more expensive, and it'll just be way more fun. So I hope to buy and hold this one like a stock. This one's going to be in the portfolio for until she dies, basically, for the next 25, 30 years.
Okay. Well, congrats on buying the first car.
Haven't bought it yet, but soon. She's fun. Do you know about these Toyota GR86s?
Is it faster off the line than my Tesla?
It is not, but it definitely has a lot more heart. You know, she sings the vibrations in the wheel, shifting the gears, putting the clutch in, slamming the gas, taking the clutch back out. And this will be faster through the turns than your Tesla, I think. She grips really nicely.
We'll see. Yeah, like I'm with Hollis now. I mean, self-driving is, dude, the self-driving is getting so good. I've actually started like using it like a cyber cab now almost, or a Waymo. Like just get in the car, enter the thing, and hit the button to start, instead of like pulling out of the driveway and start and getting going. And while you're driving through the neighborhood, you type in your nav, and then kind of, but right around the time you get out of the neighborhood, that's when you turn the self-driving on. Now it's just like boom. And when you ride it all the way home too, it like stops, backs into the driveway, parks itself right at the charging spot. Like it's
nice with it. It's getting there.
And the nag is turned way down too. So they've tied it to the speed profiles. So if you're like in hurry or Mad Max, like it will nag you if you're not paying attention. But if you're in standard mode, or if you turn it down into chill, like you can play on your phone for a couple minutes before.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I've seen some of these videos of the Mad Max mode, and it's Mad Max. It's kind of irresponsible that they even made it, but like, all right.
I actually like its driving better. It's more assertive. In like
I've
chill
seen
mode, it's more like it'll actually like it kind of will waver back and forth whether or not it's going to change lanes. Where in Mad Max mode, it just freaking goes when it's got an opening. Like if the opening is there, it goes. It doesn't pussyfoot around like it.
Which in some ways you're right. Like being assertive is like best defense is good offense, right? Like being assertive sometimes is the safest option. Motorcycle people know this the best.
Yeah,
but like some of the videos I've seen, you tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, is it averaging like 15 miles an hour above the speed limit? Like, are you just going to rack up speeding tickets?
It can. You can also offset the speed limit, the speed profile you want. So you can tell it can go 20 miles above the speed limit. It can go 10%, and you can do it in fixed miles an hour, or you can do it in percentages. So you can say, oh, you can go 10% above, or you can go 15 over, or you perfect. Can go 5 over, or you know.
So the videos that I've seen are people who are not putting those guardrails in. They're just
right. They have made the choice to let the thing off the leash.
Okay, got it. Speaking of being off the leash, we've got a robo-taxi update. So we're still talking small numbers here, but for the first time in quite a significant time, we are making a nice little jump here. I mean, any Tesla shareholders have to be happy to see the number of unsupervised robo-taxis basically quadrupling over the last 2 months. And there was also something that I sent you maybe like a week and a half ago, which was the amount of people that Tesla is hiring now around a bunch of different cities across the country for, what do we call them, like regulatory policy experts to, help legalize the shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a data point that I'm looking at as a longtime Tesla bear that I'm like, this is interesting. We're starting to see progress, and this is a game changer. What were your thoughts around like just usability, FSD? You said it was less nag. How much was it nagging you previously versus how much is it nagging you now?
I mean, since we've had it, it's just steadily gone down. And even in some of, and I think it was kind of, the boss was literally in one of his videos saying, "We know what you're doing. You're turning off FSD to pick up your phones. Like, we're still watching. Like, we still have the camera. We know what you're doing." So in order to get that, their consecutive miles streak data, they've got to let the nanny state off a little bit. I can say the nag is not as bad as some of the other like lane keeping slash follow cruise controls in a couple of the rentals I've had recently. Hi, June.
Yeah, we got June in the chat. Thanks everyone for being here. We got
June holding it down last week with Dougie too.
Oh, June was on?
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to actually go back and watch that. I've just been so busy with life. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm slacking, but yeah. We love
So
June.
yeah, Hollis, turn the speed profile down and you can like go for like a minute.
That's wonderful.
Like you can like type an email now. If you're in like chill mode, you can type an email.
Now, everyone here who's watching the show has probably heard Dougie and I talk about self-driving, Tesla versus Waymo a million times. Let's add a third perspective. We've got a special guest on the show today. We would like to welcome Ceej.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? What's going on? How's everybody?
Doing great, dude. Thanks for joining the show. We've been meaning to have you on, like literally since like the second episode. We're like, dude, we have to get this guy on.
I appreciate you guys bringing me on. I thought I had some glasses set around here. I knew Dougie was gonna have some shades on.
Okay, yeah. Well, you have to do it now. If I
let me bring some shades out here.
There we go. There we go.
What's going on, gentlemen?
We're doing good. So we're looking at some of the progress that the companies are making. We just talked about the number of unsupervised robo-taxis, the amount of nag and the new FSD update, and then also one that we haven't covered yet is Waymo spending about $200 million to acquire some new proving grounds in Arizona. Nebius seems to be full steam ahead. Uber continues to make investments. What are your thoughts around what's happening in self-driving?
I think that there's a lot of stuff with self-driving that people aren't really looking at, where it's a smart city is what the self-driving is really perpetuating, that is just bringing about infrastructure and new layers that small companies have a huge piece in. It's very controversial too, because smart cities mean that data gets collected and that LiDAR and video footage of everything. Smart cities need data, and you're seeing right now flock cameras and stuff like that are not necessarily the most popular opinion. At least that's the fireside chat. But that brings about like little tiny aspects where if you're going to have cars that are driving out or running around with no drivers, you're going to have somebody who's monitoring that, who's managing traffic, who's managing wrecks, who's managing parking lots, who's managing all of the fines that are going to happen when somebody or something doesn't adhere to the laws that are at hand. And so there's a lot of interesting policy changes as well. And I'm curious to see how that gets integrated, because everybody's going to be forced to share. And I'm not sure if it's data restrictive or data producing, where the competition kind of steps in and takes bites, because it's DOT. So each state and each city and each jurisdiction is a little bit different because they're kind of regulated on their own. So funding and policy is something that isn't necessarily really easy to lobby for either. So
let's break that down. So
that's why we're going to need a national approach to it, because every little town that wants to throw a wrench in thing, they're gonna ban data centers, and they're gonna ban flock cameras, and then they're gonna ban self-driving cars.
So let's break down what flock cameras are for those who don't know. There's cameras sort of all throughout the country that they're starting to install, that when you do a crime, it's basically capturing the license plate at common throughput areas, so that if they see that someone robs a Circle K and they've got the license plate of whoever did the robbing, the flock camera is going to pick it up, and then the authorities know. So there's the obvious big brother argument versus, are we just actually reducing 90% of the crime that's committed by like 3% of the people because we're now just giving law enforcement more effective tools. So there's definitely that argument. When you say smart city, Ceej, can you break down what you mean with like that encompassing term of smart city? Because I know you do such a great job of following policy, not just at the federal level, but at the state level, which is how you're able to find so many like SMID cap companies that have done so well, is just by following what's going on the government side.
Before I do that, I don't know if I'm messing up, but I can't hear Dougie. I can hear you, but I can't hear Dougie.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
Dougie, can we get a mic check?
Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I can hear
him.
Let us know in the chat too if you guys can't hear him, but I can hear him. In StreamYard down here in the bottom corner.
Yes, sir.
You don't have him muted, do you?
I do not have. Let me make sure. iPad microphone. Nobody's muted. Let me see. Maybe I got
All right, I took him out and brought him back in. Let's try it.
Check 1, 2, 3. Check 1, 2, 3.
No, that's crazy. Can't hear him still.
Any ideas, Dougie? I'm at a loss for words on this one.
Let me hop out and come back in then.
Okay. So we're gonna take a quick technical break with Ceej before he digs into that question. Dougie, do you want to expand on your idea of like why it needs to be national regulation rather than state level and local?
I mean, you only need to look at your Facebook feed to see all the people talking about, this. They'll show you some picturesque, plot of land or something and say, no data center is worth 1 centimeter of this land in Texas or something like that, right? As if like the some conspiracy to turn on everyone's to stop the data. We have to stop the data centers before they destroy all the land and cover it.
Well, and the concern is a lot of that.
But I am seeing
a lot of the
like,
pushback is
mayors,
inorganic, right?
Yeah, I am seeing though local mayors on their Facebook profiles saying, yes, we are blocking, this data center project or that data center project. And then they're, in the comments for those posts, they're saying, okay, now we got this stopped. Next is the flock cameras. And I'm like, well, right after that is going to be the self-driving cars. I really think it has less to do with, it's not the Teslas that are going to be the problem necessarily with, at least with this type of group. It's going to be the Chinese self-driving cars. They're really going to hate those.
And you think that's just going to be like a Luddite position out of like, we need to save the taxi drivers? Because it seems like that's an easily winnable argument. But just based on some of the conversations that I've seen, especially with people who work away,
technology, it's anti-new thing. It's get off my lawn.
Right. But the argument becomes very easy when you say if you let people drive on their own, they're going to kill more people. If you let the Teslas and the Waymos do the driving, deaths reduced by 90%. So are you willing to trade the jobs that these people have for dead people on the road? The trade-off is very clear, and it seems very winnable to me, right?
Well, I tell you what, if we, I see another glasses change. That was a problem. You couldn't hear me.
I couldn't see the screen, and I couldn't hear you, so I put some different ones on, and it's working now.
Yeah. Sorry, train of thought derailed.
I was talking about the winning argument of you're trading these jobs that are going to go away anyways for more dangerous roads. And you're talking about,
but it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about somebody's getting rich and I'm not. And I would rather burn it all down than see civilization advance.
Right.
The barbarians are in the gates and we let them in.
I have a little bit more faith in that. I think things are trending in the right direction. But yeah, there's the disappointed
summer child.
Okay, Ceej, before we got distracted by the technical difficulties, so I was teeing you up for talking about local regulation and what you're seeing in the pipeline, because you are tapped in to a lot of these .gov sites and you just
Right.
seem to know where policy's headed. So what is a smart city, and what's the implications of that?
All right. So there's a small company, super small cap. It's called Rekor. It's an Israeli company, and dude, they are smashing. They're smashing to me. I mean, not their stock price, okay? Like they're at all-time lows right now. But they're a public partner with Nvidia and Metropolis. And I don't know anybody who's both on their page and Nvidia's page that's a partner that's sub $1. And so I've done like a huge deep dive on just the entire infrastructure. And if people don't know, NVIDIA has a program called Metropolis, right? And it's basically a small footprint of a digital city, right? Trying to make it smart to where everything from crosswalks to street signs to cars to parking lots, all of that is kind of um, in the system. So when you start talking about like robo taxis, it gets really interesting because now this is a new dot for each state. Kind of has their own regulations. You see Waymos everywhere. If you're on the West Coast, you may see a lot of Zooks, uh, which is kind of like it has more British vibe. The Zooks does. It's kind of like a Britishy
Carriage.
looking, right,
Yeah.
right. It's kind of like a carriage almost, right? Like you sit in there and you're kind of facing each other like it's a metro cable car or something like that.
It feels like
And
it
then you
shouldn't go fast because like you're kind of moving backwards.
right, right. And so there's just a lot of stuff that goes along with it. And you know the perception that you're talking about where it's like people don't want to like it, people aren't sure about it. You're gonna have I've seen some of the commercials where it's like a couple that's riding their bike, and the next thing that they know, they wake up and they're in the ER, like about to go into surgery, and they're like, "Thank God for smart driving and robo taxis because the taxi swiped us while he was like trying to fiddle with his meter or something like that." So you have a lot of nuance that goes on with it, but the language is starting to change around robo taxis. It's not necessarily traffic control or license plates or toll enforcements or anything. It's smart infrastructure. It's starting to change into these like where it can grow and versus it's just one thing. Hey, the only reason that these cameras here are to like enforce rules. No, they're there to count how many cars are going past for each green light, yellow light, red light. How many times is traffic jams? How many cars are in the lane from red light to red light?
So
So
data driven infrastructure.
Yeah.
data driven infrastructure, but you start to see where it turns into a surveillance aspect, or even further than a surveillance aspect, it's a sensor. And sensors are huge. You talk about Cisco, you talk about all of these other companies, they're not looking for new infrastructure, they're looking for more sensors. They're looking for more things to where they can start to fine tune these data points. Um,
Because
and
more
this
data
come
points equals more
More
points of
control.
touch
Yeah.
right,
equals better insight. So companies like
more
Occupy.
right, right, right. Um, so Nvidia's very interesting because it has so many different layers, whereas we just think about, not we, but the majority of people when they hear Nvidia, they think AI, GPUs, and graphics cards and what have you. But man, they are tied into so many small little niche aspects that really give them the customers, right? Like, man, if this gets passed in one state, it gets passed to the next state, and it starts county by county, and those that starts to grow all of these customers. Because you hear, oh, we're sold out into 2028 to 2029. So where do their customers come from? Their customers come from the expansion of the infrastructure And the expansion of the infrastructure comes with the expansion of all of the damn traffic jams that everybody's zipping into. You know, I live in Miami, so my traffic is a little bit different than everybody else's. Whereas you guys in Houston and in Arizona, it might be a little bit more understandable. You have highways everywhere. We just got a bunch of crazy drivers that drive all of the wild, cool, flashy, and hoopty cars that there are on the planet, and we're driving like it's GTA out here. Okay. Um,
That's gonna be me after I bring this GR86 home.
Hey man, you know, like I jokingly say it all the time. You know, a lot of people are relocating to Miami because it's the new wave, and I'm like, the people who are coming from Michigan and in Iowa who drive like normal individuals are kind of like messing it up for everybody else. Because I'm like, dude, stop yielding, and stop stopping in the middle of traffic and letting somebody get in front of you. Like you're jacking everybody else's flow up over here. Like people are looking at you like, oh, this guy over here, you know. Um, but I start to see these things, and you know, I like to pay attention to it. I read, and I might not necessarily understand what it takes to be a traffic engineer, which happens to be like one of the most difficult PhDs that you can have.
Yeah,
Is
the math
traffic
on that gets
management.
quantum, but the math starts getting difficult on that hard.
Right, right.
Quickly.
And you know, I'm a quantum bull, so I have to think about what are the use cases that aren't necessarily in the conversation right now. Traffic, number one
Yep.
to me. I mean,
Because
I don't.
here's one. So you could have like a lot of, and I'll for the benefit of the audience, I'll break down what we mean by traffic and what you can do with sensors and so on and so forth. So let's say you have a bunch of street traffic at one light that gets really built up. Well, the smart cars are going to, and even not so smart cars now, but the GPS is traffic aware. So they're already going to change your route to go around a bit. They might change your route to go around a busy intersection. A self-driving car will actually do that without the
Right,
user having to approve it, because of the data that it's getting for the traffic awareness. Now, the next level of evolution, and here's where you start needing quantum computing, is when you start saying, okay, well, other red lights in proximity understand that they're tied to this one that is this major backup, and so we're going to change the frequency of those lights to allow for the additional traffic that's coming through there and
right.
reduce the pileup that was at this one location. Or
Right.
and they'll also be able to respond based on accidents and stuff like that as well.
I have a
Right.
question.
Go
So,
ahead.
and I don't know why I ever thought like we'd get both you guys on a podcast and quantum wouldn't come up. Of course, it was gonna fucking come up.
Salute.
But so my question is something that I think about a lot is whenever airports have massive cancellations and you have a billion different variables. You've got these planes
Right,
over here, and like
right,
this flight was late, therefore this flight is late, and there's just a bunch of domino effects that are happening. Especially if you look at like what happened with Southwest a few years ago. Is
Yep.
this something that quantum could also be applied to?
Yes.
right, right. I totally agree. Think about it though. Think about how many people, as soon, I mean, like information is quick for us now. I mean, even if there is a thing called latency that us normal individuals have access to, we're all tapped into our apps for American Airlines, Delta, Air Canada, Alaska. Fuck, you could be traveling on Djibouti Air, you know what I mean? And they have an app for you to like figure out what gate you're gonna be at, if it's gonna be relocated. As soon as you see that your flight's delayed, how many people do you think that are going on there looking to see if they can get some other flight? You know, their
Yep.
traffic, not only their luggage. I mean,
Has to
you
get
know,
rerouted.
when
Yep.
when the airlines went down with Southwest, you know that I think it was Southwest, the only one that was still running. And you know, one of the reasons why they were still running is because they weren't tapped into computers. Your lost luggage is still, I don't know about now, but at the moment when this happened, it was still done by pencil and paper. That's how they kept all of their logs for lost luggage. That's why everybody's lost luggage is a freaking problem.
Yeah, that
So
did work against them though a few years ago So yeah, they avoided the CrowdStrike dilemma, but a few years ago, during like peak travel season, I think it was like on December 23rd, right before Christmas and New Year's Eve and all that, they lost everything due to one snowstorm because they had almost everything based in Denver and it got totally snowed in. It was like 3, 4, 5 feet of snow, something crazy like that. And it blew up their business so bad that I think it was called Winter Storm Elliott. They even gave it a name. That's how bad the storm was. And they had all their operations in one hub. And then it got so bad that Elliott management had to come in and try and fix the company. And that's why you're seeing changes out of Southwest now, like charging extra for things that they didn't used to. They used to do like the seat yourself thing. They're changing that now because of the active management. You know, they're instituting changes. So yeah, like there's upsides and downsides to it because if you go all cloud and then it crashes, oh boy. But if you don't use it, and then an event happens again, oh boy, what are you going to do? You don't have the compute to figure out the problem.
Exactly.
So what you have is an NP hard problem, and traditional computing might take a couple of days to figure out how to route all the flights around like a closed airport or something like that can get all the passengers where they ultimately have to go. And then if you use quantum, you might be able to solve that problem in 15 minutes, which is not like an instant answer, but 15 minutes is okay. Well, if you get delayed for 15 minutes, well, now we can start, if you get your answer within 15 minutes or even an hour, you can start working the problem to bring that out rather than sitting around not being able to do anything and just waiting on a solution.
But think about this too. All right. A lot of these companies have old school computers. They don't really even have flat screens at the desk. They still have like a big they got a thick monitor sitting up there on that desk where you're checking in.
I don't know where Ceej is flying, but man, I'm at modern airports, bro.
Hey, I mean, I'm all over the world, but what I'm saying is if I got modern computers and I need all of this AI infrastructure and cloud and stuff like that, I got to have a server rack. I got to have extra people that I'm paying, right? I got to have all of this extra compute. Quantum, you need all of that? You need all that power, all that extra juice? Nope, sorry. People really forget that quantum doesn't need this nuclear power facility to do the work of 1,000 supercomputers. So, it's a very interesting topic, and I think that the robo taxis can really show air taxis how to freaking work properly, right?
Yeah,
and it sucks because the infrastructure change is going to require liquidity. It's going to require dilution. It's going to require new certification processes. It's going to require new bosses to make sure that everybody else who's been doing it old school, control alt delete motherfuckers, is not going to work anymore. We're going to have to teach you and educate you on a new process and how to do it.
So capital and education, capital and execution is what I just heard from you.
Right. I mean, but airfare in Europe right now is just a complete shit show, right? Like 3-hour waits is what they're notifying people to be ready to wait just to get into the airport. And then you're going to have to wait for, like Dougie's saying, all of these, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And this is all like, we're just shifting things like, these people didn't make it to the flight, so I can take 15 people over here from this terminal and they can get the flight. And we can bump these people from terminal F and they can go all the way to L. You got people running around all crazy and everything like that. It's no different than traffic on the highway. I mean, people do the same thing. Oh, there's a detour on this ramp right here. Well, where the hell do I get off? No, I don't know. The GPS is tweaking out on you and you get into one of them State Farm commercials, So I think there's a real moat that nobody's really talking about with the robo taxis, because they've been testing it for a long time, right? And they've been kicking Elon's ass all over the place. As smart and efficient as the man is, he you know, he parties a little much and he bumps his gums and he doesn't necessarily get the pass all the time like he should. And that brings a slight hiccup in the allowance to pass his system off as being okay. We can trust this, we can bring it on board. You know, this is what happens with a lot of companies when they start announcing a lot of things. You highlight, you raise your hand. Hey, who didn't turn in their homework today? Five people don't turn their homework around in on, and you happen to be sitting around those five people. Hey, guess what? The teacher's just going to assume you didn't turn your homework in either, right? So that's going to bring scrutiny from regulation, from policymakers, from Senator Warren. You know, I mean, like you're going to have like a bunch of cranky people that just want something to complain about in these Congress settings, and they're going to be like, we need to look at it a little bit more, and I need to give this person who's a legacy partner, and they've been supporting me for the last 15 years, and you know, you get all of that stuff.
But
But
it does
once,
feel like, despite how distracted you might say Elon is, right? Like he's got too many families going on, too many companies, whatever. He's like, you know, that SpaceX IPO merging, like it is all eventually coming together. At some point, he is going to be able to focus on it. And if what Doug has been preaching for the entirety of Money Mobsters comes true, and the technology is there and it's built for the long term and they're able to prove it out, then you end up with this rip where once everyone agrees that it's safe, the Senator Warrens of the world can shut the fuck up because they have no leg to stand on.
no
Yep.
doubt, no doubt. You know, okay, this let's go back to the robo taxis right here real quick, because this is where it gets really interesting, especially for robo taxis. So, roadway intelligence, transportation data, analytics, and support transportation infrastructure, road conditions, potholes all over the place, detours down here. You have uneven things. Hey, let's say you have a vehicle that's traveling and it's got biohazard material in it. Are you going to send it down a road, or are you going to permit it down a road that has a bunch of potholes and things like that? Probably not. You have a semi that weighs a certain amount. No, sir, you can't go past this over here. This is a part. You know, we have an old infrastructure too. A lot of our highways, you know, and um, you know, there have been failures with bridges and all of that other stuff. But then people start to get really sexy with some of the programs that they got, like Alpha Maya 2 Super. Has anybody heard of that? That's an
I don't even
NVIDIA
know what you
program.
just said, dude. Was that English?
Alpha Maya 2 Super, right? This works with NVIDIA, and
Talk about it. Okay.
it's a vehicle AI model for autonomous driving and robotaxi decision making, right? So if the robotaxis scale, there's a generatable consumer with enormous amounts of roadway updates, infrastructure, roadway intelligence, bro. I mean, they're not
Well,
playing around.
that was actually one of the things that I remember hearing the bull case, another bull case on cyber cabs a long time ago was Tesla would be in a position to sell their
Boom.
data to
Yep.
the municipalities to tell them where the potholes are, to tell them
Yep.
you know where their repairs are needed.
Edge computing is huge, right? And edge computing is really hard because hardware fails, right?
Yep.
The old legacy model is hardware versus software. Nowadays, you have to have a little bit of hardware, but the software is the moving vehicle. Right. Boom. There you go.
So this
Like,
is how come I missed it. It happened 9 days ago. So I think we knew that Alpha Mayo got released at, what was it, GTC in DC, like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. They talked about it. Can you too long didn't read this for us? What are they announcing here that's different from what they announced in DC, other than just their general robotaxi platform?
fleets. Fleets, baby. Not just one, not just a couple. We're talking entire fleets. We're ready to roll out and get ready to rip the yellow cabs. That's what it is. There's another program that runs with it, and it's called Hyperion. Um, I mean, they're ready to do swarms, right? We talk about quantum, we talk about AI, we hear the swarm talk all of the time, and it's mentioned around drones. A robotaxi is a drone. It's just on the ground.
Sure.
So that's what's happening here is that you have an infrastructure that's ready to feed all of the data. All of the LiDAR is giving you all, I mean, they can give you bumper space, bro. They can tell you exactly how many vehicles per vehicle. Oh, I'm scanning all of these vehicles. Okay, I know that's a Lincoln Navigator right there. I can fit 4 of those suckers on this entire street. Oh, you got a bunch of little Honda Fits. I can fit 20 of those because I know the bumper space on them. Like they're ready to max out cities, man. Um, and it does the taxpayers good. It does the city workers good. It does the power bill good, right? We don't think about that. Street lights are always on. Red lights are
Right.
always going down. Light bulbs are incredibly expensive for street signs, man. I mean, like they are like crazy expensive.
Yeah.
So, you know,
So, so you see what Wong says. Well, shit. We're gonna need more RAM.
bro, if you bring on quantum, you don't really need all of the RAM.
Well, you still got to store the information.
Well, you set the parameters. You have all of the data, and then you'll need some, but you won't need you know Kratos is talking about cooling the data centers with turbo turbines for the data centers right now. Like they're bringing on the stuff that is like rocking these going Mach 22 jets to the data centers just to cool these bitches off.
So
Yeah.
good
So
transition. Let's dive into the data center a little bit and talk about that because Google and Meta are issuing equity, and this is one of the things that I wanted to definitely dig into because it's all everyone's looking at is how much capital is going into Google, going into Meta. You've got the SpaceX IPO on the horizon. Anthropic got the S1N, and just today, OpenAI announced that they're likely going to be going public within the next year. So a lot of capital going into the AI build out. For those who don't know, like 75% of the capex for SpaceX as a combined company is going to XAI data centers for AI, not rockets and launchers. So everyone's really pushing all the chips in the middle for AI right now. So why is it that like Meta and Google and Amazon are sort of like trading off when they're investing capex into data centers? But meanwhile, some of the highest names in the market right now are semiconductors, neo clouds. There seems to be like a juxtaposition.
well, all right, everybody's going to talk about dilution and capex. I mean, I think that would be the popular opinion is to talk about dilution and capex. But I mean, Meta and Google are issuing equity. Why are they doing that?
Well, because they see an opportunity ahead. So I'm a
Is
little bit
it
confused why these companies are being penalized when they're operating in a very identical space to some of the neo clouds that are hitting all-time highs and some of the semiconductors that have been rip roaring. Does the market believe that there's ROI at the end of the tunnel or not? There seems to be a bit of a contradiction.
How about do we believe that? And we're the people that's paying thinking, oh yeah, that's what it's gonna be. But I think that they're issuing this equity and stuff like that because AI infrastructure is expensive as fuck. Right? It's the new weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Capital itself is weaponized, man. Like capital itself is weaponized. It's not necessarily because they're trying to like get ROI at the end. Like this is a period where like capital is the weapon, bro. It's a competitive weapon.
well, you've got to make the right decisions. And all this data and all this information, all this compute is really nothing more than making correct decisions. And so what we're doing is we are taking a process that took rare individuals who had what we would say a soft skill set of wisdom and a lifetimes of learning, and we have built algorithms to help us use the internet to learn all this stuff. So now you can basically have an entity that learns things almost instantly and doesn't require 40 years of experience on the job to learn how to make decisions to operate a company at a high level. If it understands the ontology of the company, it can operate the company almost instantly.
I was about to say ontology, baby. Carp talked about it today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody else is already hijacking the horse, man. They already built it up. Like, I mean, think about it. Cisco did the hard work. They built the infrastructure. Google and Meta are building infrastructure. But the big difference here is that, like, Google and Meta, they own the mines, baby. They own the mines, man.
Well, so that brings me to the point that I talked about originally, which is my confusion around why Cisco has traded, like, their revenue is basically flat. It's inflation
because they did exactly what they told us they were going to do when you were in middle school. They built the information superhighway.
They did it all. They did
the hard work. You know what doesn't make a lot of money? You know what isn't sexy? The interstate traveling. The interstate through all of the cities and towns we live in.
Right.
But
so hear my logic
valuable is what moves through them.
So if they have valuable property, sure. If they own the current superhighway, Meta and Google are also investing in building a superhighway of their own. So why is it that Meta, a company whose EPS is growing at 50 to 100% year after year with a top line of 30%, who's taking advantage of this opportunity, why are they getting punished for investing in CapEx while Cisco is getting rewarded when they already have the infrastructure, but it's not showing results? Like, why is Cisco going up, but Meta's not? And Meta, by the way, trades at half of the PE of Cisco. This is, I have to get on my, like, Steve valuation bandwagon here of, like, I know Steve likes Cisco, so maybe he's on the other side of this, but, like, why is it that Cisco trades at double the PE of Meta when every single statistic would indicate that Meta's the superior company?
Okay, let me ask this question then. So, are hyperscalers becoming, like, sovereign entities of power, compute data, networks, security? I mean, because largely, and, like, historically, who's that belonged to before? It's belonged to the government.
Yeah, or the encyclopedia companies.
There you go. Like, I think that's the question, is, like, are these hyperscalers?
The government certainly owned all the surveillance data.
Or they at least definitely got it all. You know what I mean? Even if they didn't, quote unquote, they got it all.
Own They're the ones who were allowed to collect it.
Right.
The difference is the hyperscalers, they came through, they offered a free service in the only thing you had to pay with your data. And, the world made that.
Yeah.
Collectively.
You know what?
Imagine if we had decided not to do that. If we were like, nope.
Right.
If the initial waves had been like, nope, Facebook isn't worth it because they're collecting my data and I'm not giving it to
no
them.
doubt.
The college kids who didn't value it or understand what they were giving away back when it was the Facebook, if they did, if they had understood what they were giving away at the time.
Well, look, Dougie's a rocket, man. So you can appreciate this analogous connection here. NASA has the smartest individuals next to some private companies. I'm not going to say all private companies because the real nerds are at NASA. Do you know what the most
That's
paid...
the administrators. The real nerds are at JPL.
Okay, they're at JPL, Sierra. They're at a few sexy ones, but we don't hear about none of that stuff, right? Because they keep that data for themselves. They might share some with the government. But what's the highest salary of any NASA individual?
I don't know, 120,000 maybe.
It doesn't break 300K. You know why they work there? Because they get to play with the cool shit.
Yeah. Oh, even better. They're well, in the oil business, we call them plant daddies. They're the
There you go.
ones that all the contracts have to run through. So everybody kisses your butt all
No
day. Like,
doubt.
you talk about going to steak, you talk about getting taken to steak dinners. When you're a government official, you're a government manager in charge of a program, and all these contractors have all these millions of dollars to spend to make sure you're the person who's happy.
Yep. You
You
ain't
might
you
not make
ain't
a lot of money, but you get treated like a prince.
you
And then
ain't
you
wearing
retire
no
from your government
ropers,
job and
baby.
you get on the board of one of those companies.
Those are some Lucchese's. Those ain't some rope. Those ain't some Stetsons. You got some Lucchese's on, sir. You know, and my steak is 32 ounces. I'm gonna bring the rest home for the dogs. You know.
Right.
Well, so speaking of Mr. Karp, he had an interview. I actually have not seen this interview yet. I've been busy all day, so I'm going to be watching this live here. We'll get a live read. Maybe I think you guys have both seen this clip, but
I'll just set it up for you.
Yep, set it up.
Davis ended up feeling particularly small next to Karp because of the way that both this lady and Amit were watching Karp during this interview.
So, and he's going to talk, I think, about LLM slop versus value, right? That's kind of been the theme lately. Okay, cool.
Yep. I'll be right back.
It's a real question.
Sorry about that. Let me try that again. My volume on YouTube was way.
Because I think the biggest question around Palantir right now on Wall Street is whether the large language models, the Anthropics and the AIs, which are about to go public, can replicate what you're doing.
You know what? It's a real question that no one in enterprise factually is worried. Like, you know, investors are really interested. Short term have no idea what they're talking about. Long term end up being right. But we will just debate this with the facts. You know, I've spent all my life, for better or worse, dealing with the most complicated, most interesting enterprises. I'm on the ground floor of that, probably like no one else.
And they don't, you're saying?
I mean, most of them are chillaxing over their latte, reading a report about something that they don't understand the technical capacity about.
But they're hiring the kind of engineers that you have.
And those kind of engineers are great engineers. And I'm telling you, they don't talk to the enterprises or don't understand the technical challenge. And also, by the way, the ability to be a great investor in the kind of that's where large language models are more useful, because it's probabilistic and you don't have to get better than really 51%. If you want to manufacture a car and you need a part, or you want to send a rocket to the moon, or you want to put a missile on your adversary's head and bring home American safely, that stuff doesn't ship. And by the way, and there's not a single high-end enterprise like that would ever put, by the way, that's before you get to the cultural impasse. Like when you go to San Francisco and talk to them, their basic vibe is, we don't have to solve your problem today, because tomorrow you're going to go away and all of your problems are going to be solved. It's largely religious. And then you get to, we're going to replicate Palantir by doing a deploy code. I mean, it's a complete farce. Like, the people who go there to solve the simplest, easiest problems that sell tokens. And the part they don't understand, honestly, and I told them this, I probably shouldn't, is they don't understand how unlikable they are. So the product doesn't actually work the way. It's very expensive, and you got to overcome the fact that you may not realize outside of actually, I'm not even saying I find them unlikable, because actually some of the best and most interesting conversations I've had in business are like hanging out with some Sam, Dario, others. I mean, these are high, like you talk to Dario, it's a great time. And he does.
We were together at AIG. Yeah, I was going to ask, is Anthropic, are they friend or foe? Are they competitor or partner?
Again, I mean, most of the things they talk about in public are running on Palantir. So it's like, now, at this scale, we're a nation state. Basically, they are like, we are. He is the frontier person of the leading frontier model company currently, and he's gone from being way behind to being ahead. And he's a very, very important person. And I'll tell you, he believes what he's saying. I just would say that, push away, he believes all problems I think, and I impute him, or believes all problems of the current, present, and future, are transitionary to a perfect future. I believe that we need heaven on earth, not heaven in 20 years. And we disagree on these things, but doesn't mean that, it's like we don't agree on other things. It's like, they agree on certain national security. We disagree. It's not as simple as agree, disagree, bad, good. These are some of the more interesting, important people in the world. I'm betting heavily, and my customers pretty much are on my side, that, it is not that large language models aren't crucial for the world. It's just the implementation is where the value is, certainly in the next 7 years. And if you want to ask me what's going to happen in 10 years, I don't know. But, the risk of a pathogen destroying us is probably as high as.
Joining us right now to talk all things markets is Steve.
So that must not have been the full interview, but yeah, that was definitely the most interesting part of the conversation. I think we lost Ceej, but I think he'll be back. Oh, there we go. We got him.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry about
Jackson,
that.
anytime we have a chance to talk with Ceej, it is an interesting conversation. I'm here.
So the main argument there obviously being that you can't just throw lots of compute at a problem and expect it to figure it out. What you actually have to do is find out the root cause of the problem and then engineer backwards from that. Palantir's talked about this a lot. They even make the reference towards French cuisine. And the reason French cuisine is so good is because the chef and the cook is the one who actually delivers the food to the table and gets the feedback directly from the people who ate the food. If there's a giant line of, a giant disconnect, a giant chain of command in between the person using the product and seeing what the results are on the front line to the people who are building the technology and making the decisions, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of bureaucracy, it's not ever going to be as good as, the chef who's delivering directly to the customer and getting that raw feedback.
Right.
And we lost Ceej again. We'll see if he comes back. It's fun, dude. He's keeping us on our toes.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things if he does get back, one of the things I wanted to ask him about is to, kind of let's give him some time to kind of tell the audience what his approach is for finding all these new companies he looks at.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely want to ask him that because he's really good at screening. I would say that's actually one of his top 3 strengths is screening, just being able to pull these companies that no one's ever heard of, and all of a sudden he's got his head wrapped around a thesis, and he's introducing this company that no one else in our group chats has ever heard of, and he already knows them well. So he
understands the story and everything that
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So taking the other side of the AI talk, everyone's talking about SpaceX valuation, which I can't get into much. Dougie, why, but there's the SpaceX valuation, the capital raises, the, Anthropic and SpaceX getting money. And then I made some tweets about this earlier in the week. But Jensen talking about buying stock after stock, at first he's trying to hold up quantum computing. Then the next week he's trying to hold up legacy software. The week after
Who do you think he is, president?
Something like that, dude. He's the president of the S&P 500. I'll tell you that much. Marvel, Qualcomm. I don't like it. I don't like a CEO, instead of focused on their business, they're over here stock watching and then giving recommendations to people on live television. Dude, talk about your company. Is that a stupid opinion that this is kind of irking me the wrong way?
That's fair. I think for you in particular, as someone who works as a professional in the space, you look for a little more guardrails to be up than maybe somebody like myself or Ceej, who is on the outside and doesn't care.
Even without the regulation, it doesn't seem like a distraction.
Playing a video game during your earnings call like drove you up the wall, and I was like, you remember, like we talked about, is you were like pulling your hair out and ranting, and I'm just like, sorry, bro, you can't make me care. Like, I don't care. I mean, he's memeing on the fuddy-duddiness of, and maybe that's the Gen X in me. Like, we just always thought half this shit was bullshit anyway and not worth anyone's time. So I can understand that you feel that way about Jensen talking about all these other companies, but you can't make me hate it. But I don't say that I love, but it's not like I love it either. Okay. I just don't care. How does that sound? I just don't care.
Yeah. I mean, you can decide to not weigh it. I think, and here's the Coinbase, basically since the month ago, since they had their earnings call and did the Subway Surfer thing, I think it's the message that it sends that you're distracted and you're focused on the wrong things, like other companies' stock price. Can you imagine if Tim Cook ever came out and said, oh yeah, I think Progressive stock is undervalued? You'd be like, Tim, what are you talking about? That's not your company. Why are you speculating on other companies?
It's not in his space though. If he said that he thought that Intel stock was undervalued, that would be something that you would listen to because they're using Intel chips again.
Okay, but why are you giving recommendations, first of all? And then, because it just adds risk, to be honest, it really does. But second of all, like, are you the expert on the valuation of Intel? Or are you supposed to be running your company full time and really focused on building out the AI wave? And I like Jensen. I'm nitpicking here, so like, don't roast me in the comments.
It's possible to do both. Or Austin, do you do your job and work for your company, or do you look at the valuations of other companies?
If I was the CEO of the biggest company in the world, I promise you I would not be talking about other company stocks.
Okay, well, I'm just saying the guy feels like he's got his act together, and he's running the biggest company in the world. I think he has his act together. He probably has time to, and he's also trying to grow the entire ecosystem, and he understands that one of the limiting things for his company is whether the ecosystem can grow quickly enough, and part of that is those companies receiving capital to do the jobs that they plan to do.
Right, which is exactly what concerns me.
And he would rather not provide them all his own capital. So you give them the money.
Pumping the stocks so that it lowers their cost of capital and ultimately ends back up in his pocket because the ecosystem grows.
So, well, which is worse, for him to pump the stocks so the public provides the capital and the professional finance world provides the capital to those companies, or that he provides the capital to those companies and then gets accused of circular financing? You can't hate both of them. There's only
Sure you can.
There's only, I mean, it's a circle. You can go around one way or the other, but to get there, but you've got to choose which way the
hold on. Not
the ecosystem.
This is
capital's got to come from somewhere.
This is a false dilemma. Dougie, do I have to cut you off or do I have to brake check you? Okay. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that they want more capital, but the market if he's not going to go out there and pump the stocks a little bit and start talking them up, the capital wouldn't naturally come. So that's the market sending you a signal that, hey, chill your roll. We want to see the ROI first, which is why Meta's down, which is why Google's down, which is why Amazon's down. The other names, that's a separate conversation, the Photonics and the SMH names. But, why does he have to go out there and convince everybody that companies within the ecosystem are worth more so that he can get the cost of capital down? That seems like a short-term, artificial, taking advantage of the sentiment situation. Is it not?
So he's taking advantage of the sentiment.
Okay, fair game.
That's like taking advantage of the sentiment could be an at the money offering, and he sells a bunch of shares of his own stock. Like taking advantage of the sentiment, like why is that bad? Like he's done a lot of work to get the sentiment positive.
So then why hasn't Nvidia done that? If they're ultimately the ones behind the whole build out, why hasn't Jensen, if he wants to bring capital into the ecosystem, why doesn't he issue Nvidia shares and bring more capital into the system and then take that cash from the issued shares?
Build a buy dilemma. He doesn't want to vertically integrate all the way down to the sand. Okay, like he wants to just run his company and do what he does best.
But if Marvell is worth $1 trillion and it's $200 billion, what's Marvell even at? 200?
Let's just say he understands he needs photonics. He doesn't want to become an expert in photonics. He doesn't want to run a photonics company. He doesn't want to run Amkor. Like he just wants to ship his processors, right?
But why not issue the Nvidia shares, take the cash, invest it in Marvell? Same situation. Marvell gets capital.
Then he's owning them, and he doesn't want to do that.
Then
he doesn't want to take an ownership stake in everything. He just wants those companies to succeed on their own, so he can use them as suppliers. But he understands his supply chain is not adequate for his demand right now.
I understand that he doesn't want to be an expert in every single part of the AI infrastructure build out, but that's inconsistent with how many companies NVIDIA has invested in, and like CoreWeave being a perfect example, OpenAI being another great example. They have equity in these companies who, like, you see what I'm saying here? Like, yeah. It's not like
he's attacking it from both sides. He's providing his own capital to those companies. He's sending his own capital to those companies, and he's also trying to get them built up. Not to mention, I mean, could be worse. He does have an ownership stake in it. He's not pulling a Chamath where he convinces everyone that this is worth something and then pulls his own money out. I mean, he's invested, but what Jensen's problem is that his supply chain is not adequate for his demand. So he's got to either take over. He's got to either Elon Musk it and own the supply chain all the way down, or he's got to have an entire network of vendors that can support him. And he understands right now he's the big name. He's the number one company in the world. He's the name everyone knows. People don't know what Marvell is. They think they hear Marvell, they think probably of Avengers movies. Okay, they don't even know what photonics means. I can't even imagine what a layperson would think photonics are. They think memory is for like your PC. He can't get regular people to understand that.
Well, so speaking of regular people, so this is a different angle here from Long. That Jensen has been on such a winning streak. Maybe he's nobody is giving pushback the way that they typically would. Do you think that argument would hold any weight? That he's human. He bleeds red just like the rest of us. And if everyone's constantly applauding you for everything, when you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you got 300 people that are taking photos of it and applauding you for how awesome you made the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Can you lose touch?
I think you can, but I got news for you. Jensen has thought of himself as a god for a long time. He's not developing a god complex. He's had one for a long time.
Okay, so you think that's steady, been the same?
Yeah. Look, it takes a certain amount of hubris to do the things he's already done. Okay. And so far, it hasn't bit him in the butt. He's also managed to stay the nice guy who's friends with everyone and not gotten political at all.
Oh, dude, he's so good at just articulation and softening language. I mean, if you guys didn't, if you guys weren't around to see like a lot of Obama speeches, Obama was one of the greatest public speakers of all time. And I think Jensen is getting right up there with him. He can take really complex topics and break it down in a really simple way that everyone understands. He can take really divisive issues and break it down in a way that like doesn't upset either side. He's sitting right in the crosshairs of the Chinese American, adversarial relationship, and he's still trying to run a business at the same time. Like he's just navigated all of it so well without really alienating anybody. It's even when AI is unpopular with like Sam and Dario, Jensen's managed to remain extremely popular, even though AI doesn't really pull that well. It's kind of interesting. He's crushed it. I think we've got Ceej back. Ceej, welcome back, my friend.
I don't know. I don't know if it's my computer or if it's the Henny over here that's got some issues going on. But we're back.
We're back. Yeah. So if you've been hearing the conversation, we're kind of breaking down like Jensen's approach to the market, especially at a time that might feel frothy at points, but also to Doug's point, you're getting cheaper cost of capital for the rest of the ecosystem. What's your take on all this?
Well, everybody loves Jensen.
Except
Nobody, right? But I mean, I don't see nobody from tech. You know who else I see? I see Sam Altman. I see Rick Moranis' fat brother, whatever his name is, from Anthropic.
Dario.
Do people like them?
Rick Moranis' fat brother. I've never heard that before, Ceej, but that is an adequate description of the man.
Look, I think that Jensen isn't selling chips. He's selling trust. And that's how he gets the business. So, there's a lot of aspects to, here's one thing. Everybody hates Nancy Pelosi, but they love NVIDIA. If there was no Nancy Pelosi, NVIDIA wouldn't be where it is today. People don't realize this, but when she
was trading with insider information, bro.
Well, you know what?
She was also the regulatory approval of a lot of this stuff.
Wait. She also flew to Taiwan with, it's the most expensive travel in the history of humans, is Nancy's flight to Taiwan. Like, she was accompanied with a full battle force. I mean, like, there was a carrier, there was 4 subs, there was 3 cruisers, and like 6 destroyers. That's wild. I mean, she had F-34s, F-16. She had AWACS in the air. She had satellites readjusted. That was a gangster power move because she was like, you know what? I'm doubled down. I'm sticking 10 toes in everybody's ass. I'm NVIDIA. Here we go. Yo, I said it on when, way back in the day on Emit Shit. Nancy Pelosi is the real Kathy Wood, all right? Like, and to bring it all back, look at what Jensen's done with that. He is the man on the throne. He gets to wear a different jacket every single time, and guess what? Everybody loves him. So he's not really selling chips. Well, he's selling chips to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, you slide him out the back of the door. He's on some Tony Soprano shit. Like, whether it's him or not, hey, it's been verified, bro. There's chips going places that we got sanctions. And guess what? Chuckle. I do my little shuffle and I eat some pad thai over here and some ramen over there. And guess what? Everybody still loves me because you trust me. And he's the man. He's connected into everything. He's too big. He's too big to lose right now. Even if he loses, he still wins. There's nobody that can really touch him right now. Until this terafab thing comes up where Micron does something spectacular, but like everybody's behind. Everybody's behind except for China. Once China starts pumping stuff out, then it starts to get really interesting and weird. But right now, I think that he is definitely, selling some trust. Like that's the moat. Is NVIDIA's moat trust or silicone? It ain't silicone. It's trust.
Yep.
That's my take. That's my take. I mean, he does a great job too. Like, watch him. You know, I heard what you said when he starts speaking on other people's business. Remember, this is business, and like sometimes businessmen get competitive, and sometimes I got to critique somebody rather than give them a backhand, because they're still within the same infrastructure. You can't necessarily crush somebody, but you can be like, hey, look, I'm still the starting QB over here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'll toss you a pass.
Well, Dan Ives has aptly named him the godfather of AI. I mean,
Yeah.
Kiss
he's
the ring,
like,
baby.
If you know, I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse.
Yep.
This on the day of my daughter's wedding. Like, you know, he's got a receiving line of people like ready to do favors.
If I was gonna do the optimistic take, it would be Jensen feels fine pumping these names and getting investors into these names because he knows in the long term that they'll ultimately be higher because he's confident. But the issue is if he recommends these names and they don't perform or it doesn't work, then he ends up with egg.
But
on his
I don't
face.
own Qualcomm, Jensen. I own NVIDIA. So will you please pump your stock first?
Exactly.
Right.
We have a great question here, and Ceej, while you're gone, Dougie and I, this is really the meat and potatoes of what we want to know because we know you're plugged in. So what does being plugged in mean? How do you find all these tiny companies that no one's ever heard of? You always seem to be the first to be finding out. So what does that screening process look like?
Okay, so first and foremost, you know, I'm not a seasoned vet in investing, right? I came into investing kind of like by accident. Through my brother, through Joshua. If anybody was at the Miami meetup or at the mod meeting, that was my brother's hand right there. I'm a capital limited individual, and I'm really bored with what everybody else talks about, right? The Nvidias, the S&P, like, you know, hey, I haven't heard it all before, but I've heard it all before. Whenever I hear somebody talk about stocks, boom, it's those. When, you know, I tried to put a few people on to like Palantir and Rocket Lab, like way back in the day, oh, those are scam companies. They're going to go to zero. And I was like, hey, look, I don't know nothing about stocks. I don't know how to value. Like, I have like an intimate relationship with Palantir. And I happen to like know some stuff about geolocations for rocket launch and all these other things. I like these two companies, no matter what you tell me. I'm going to go all in. So there's not a lot of people that are willing to risk mentioning small caps. And for me, why get a few pillars of solid companies that I know are going to hold my value when I can chase alpha and I can really learn the industry where I can find how I found my way of investing. And that's usually through what is needed. You know, I was in the military, so I'm a veteran, and, you know, I didn't get to do any of this. I didn't get to work with any systems that actually really worked. I was in research and development my entire time. I had prototype machines that I had to like get working and put into like certain atmospheres and make them work with all of the systems, and it sucked, you know, especially like as a new guy in the military. I'm like, man, you guys got me with 270 manuals, and they're like 5 Bibles thick, and I gotta look through schematics, and I gotta vacuum with a special 3M. I learned real quick how things are certified, and I have not heard one person. I've researched it, man. I've gone through YouTube tutorials. I've gone through people talking about how they value and how they find companies with alpha, and not one person has mentioned certification. You know what? You're a Tootsie Pop with the Indian shooting the arrow. That wrapper had to have a damn certification saying that it was safe to wrap the Tootsie Pop before it could sell. You know what? Your RTX 8000 has to have a certification that says that, hey, this chip right here is safe to put in almost any machine and not cause a fire. Everything is about a certification. You know, and when companies do dilutions and everybody's like, oh man, they're diluting, it's going to zero. You know what they're doing? They're building capital to open up a new branch of their company for a specific certification, which is money out the ass. That means that everybody that touches that gear has to be certified. And then you know what? You got to have somebody who's on deck year round. They got to have certifications quarterly, right? It's got to go, the maintenance goes up, everything goes up from there. But once it's certified, hey, it's game time. You're plugged, you're ready to roll.
So what you're
So
describing here is like regulatory capture as a moat.
as a moat, but you know what? I also I'm a theoretic person, right? Like I'm a scientist by trait and by education. And I'm not worried about commercial. Commercial's dumbed down. Commercial's stepped on. It's not pure. It's throttled. It's like, yo, you know that new sexy super is that's not a Supra, is it?
No. It's a GR86. It almost looks like a Supra. It gets that comparison a lot.
Right.
Supra is going to be like two-seater, a lot faster. And
Right.
yeah, this is an X86. This is like 230 horsepower, but it's nice and light, so she still picks up nice.
Right, but I'm sure that if there's some kind of chip that you can put in there, and you could probably get 280 horsepower out of it, real easy.
Sure. Yeah,
Real
there's lots of
easy.
modifications.
You know, Siri, when it first came out, that wasn't a dumbed down program. That was a military program. Siri is a super functional program that is built for the military, and we just get the civilian version of it. Like,
wow.
when you think about things with commercial, right? Because for me, I had to go to what I could understand. I can't understand looking at all these spreadsheets and like who's getting what. You know what I look for? I look for, is this adaptable? Is it needed? Is it needed first off? Like when the smoke clears, is this product right here what's going to be last, right?
And then you get curious and you look at the pipeline, which
I
is
look at the pipeline, and you know what? I don't have to do no sneaky like talk to somebody for some insider stuff or whatever. I might know some stuff already, but I just go to sam.gov, right? I just go to you can go to anywhere and you can look up a bunch of really wild stuff and be like, oh wow, yeah, you know what? This system right here works. It already works. Oh, you know what? That's the same program. It's already got a contract. It's already got a contract where it's doing R&D. And for people that don't understand, R&D is backlog. Once it gets out of the R&D cycle, that's revenue. You know why it gets revenue? Because that R&D has finally got a certification that says, you're ready to go to market and we're getting ready to pay you for that. This is why the military industrial complex, I'm in a lot of government stuff, right? Because I understand government style stuff. And backlog is massively important. If you ain't got backlog, I ain't checking for you. That's just plain and simple for me. Right away, I'm looking like, hey, do you have backlog? Oh, you're a small cap, micro cap, you're a mid cap. Okay. And then I learned, once you're $5, you're allowed to get invested in by retirement funds and all of these other things. And I start to learn, there's an angle here. And
yeah, you get listed onto the NYSE, onto the big board, rather than being OTC. So that allows a lot of investors. You get the liquidity pool of active management who aren't allowed. Well, some of them, not always. So we're speaking directionally and broadly here, but there's a lot of money that can't go into OTC names until they get onto the big board. Or even things like profitability, right? So
yes,
if we're looking at like stage 1 and 2 companies that are early, they're not going to be profitable yet. But there's even funds that won't invest in companies until they get profitable in stages 4, 5, 6 that you can pick up alpha on before they get the profitability.
I mean, is Rocket Lab profitable yet?
Not yet, but they're trending.
You see what I'm saying? People talk shit all the time, and it's and I don't blame them.
What happened when Palantir flipped profitable?
Bong. I already look.
In less than 2 years.
In 2007, when they first came online, being in the military and being in the R&D field, you don't know what the hell you're messing with. You know what I mean? But like, I was tapped in. I understood it. I was like, yo, whatever this shit is right here, it is fucking awesome. And you guys are giving me access to it. Cool. I'll do your little reports and stuff like that. You know, as a junior man, I wasn't allowed to like give a big report. So I had to give the weather. But you know what? I was giving them all of the reports that all of my higher ups had to read to all of the other higher ups. And I was using that little system's data. And I was like,
Yeah.
ah, I'm seeing things as just a junior individual and being like, yo, whatever this shit is sexy. Because last year when I was doing this, like I had to go to this office and go to that office. I was like, me, I could just sit here and just make a spreadsheet and boom, I got everything. So you know, when you look at things, it teaches you, especially if you're messing with the small stuff. I wouldn't have known about Alpha Alpha Pro, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have known nothing about Hyperion. I would have known nothing if I would have been in a big cap. If I'd have been in a large cap, I would have known nothing about that. But I'm playing around in these little companies and I'm learning and I'm understanding what actual infrastructure looks like and how it builds out and how it gets assimilated, or it becomes a sensor. It becomes an extra node that's powerful enough and the IP is there. And I'm like, this might be worth 1,000 shares. And I like to do my shares by powers of 10, right? Because I get to cheat. I don't have to do no math. If Warren Buffett buys $10 million and I buy $10, hey, all I got to do is just throw a couple zeros behind and then like just think, am I Warren Buffett? Why did he put that much money in there? Let me think about, boom. I can think like a CEO with just a couple zeros. And so I look for stuff that is interesting that's missing from the big picture. And you know, lasers are really big. We're talking about photonics and stuff like that. You know, I was with Dougie at Qubits and
Yep.
we just happened to be sitting down at a table eating these delicious steaks and drinking on all kinds of bottles of wine and stuff, sitting down with Dr. Jack, and he was happened to be the most gangster out of the entire show.
Yep.
And we just sat there and I was like, oh, you're like a scientist in R&D for real, for real. Let me pick your brain, sir. And
so when Ceej gets that mode with somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, Dougie just shuts up and listens.
look, my brother, my brother's there with us, and he's like, you know, he kind of just follows my trades a lot of the times, and so his averages are like way better than mine because I'm like, yo, buy now, you know, like this is what I'm in, like it's done well for me. Just grab you 100 of them, you'll be straight. And he's like, man, I think you just fucking changed his whole game. Like he wants to get back in the lab and do some teleportation type of stuff. You know what we were talking about? We were talking about different color lasers, man. It's not just blue, it's not just red, it's not just green. I was like, hey, is there a possibility for more colors? And he was like, why, yes. Indubitably so, sir. And I was just like, oh man. I was like, this guy right here is he's on some stuff. And so, you know, I try and be theoretical and I try and be interested about stuff that's out there, that's small, that nobody's really talking about, because it teaches me about science, which I'm interested in, and it also teaches me about how the market works. You know, knock on wood, I've had like one or two companies that has just kind of like crashed on me, but I learned a valuable lesson too. I learned how to dig deeper. So my real avenue for picking companies comes from having like some fucking gangster DD practices, right? Like make yourself a template, like jump into Chat GPT and make yourself a template and find a company that you can test it on that's big and proven, and it'll show you, hey, this is successful. This is what a good company is supposed to look like. This is where they failed and they've made up for it. This is where they've changed the entire board, right? Like you got to watch for that with these small cap companies when they bring on a new CFO or something like that. Hey, that ain't too good. They might be getting ready to motherfucking just sell out and go private. Drop that bitch down to 10 cents and then go private and then just ball out and turn into a max air or something like that, you know? So there's lots of little angles that I've learned to to appreciate, to learn. And you know what? I'm super blessed to have fallen in with you guys, because sometimes I hijack, our little chat, and I ask you probably just rookie questions, but I'll tell you what, it polishes me up pretty nice because I know that you guys have your angles, and I know that you guys are tried, true, and successful, and I can relate with a lot of you guys. Everybody that I've met there, man, I have had nothing but fond conversations and genuine interaction outside of stocks. So for me,
100%.
I appreciate that I have, found like solid tutelage. And I've had an opportunity at my university, which is Barry University. We have a student managed index fund. It's called our Smith team, which is solid. They're gangster. And I joined them, and I joined kind of because I was like, maybe I can have like an influence on what we invest in and like see how they break down things on a professional aspect. Nope, I was seeing too many lights, down the road. We're not even allowed to learn to know what the fund holds per SEC rules and regulations. But the professors that are there have been in the game long time, like on the floor traders, And I have appreciated learning how real hedge firms hedge. They are day traders that like do it by the books, not by TA, not by like just listening and like watching. No, they go strictly off of like values. Like if this is up, this is down, hey, we're moving something on the dot, And I've appreciated learning all of the different sectors that they incorporate into keeping value. So look for nerdy stuff. Buy one stock, buy 10 stocks of like some stupid company that you're interested in and like you think might change the game, and just play with some zeros. It's hypothetical money, You can get that money back. There's gonna be a rip and a
As
dip.
Matt Money says, it's all fake money.
It's all fake money, man. It's all it is. I mean, shit. We all got digital bucks, man. This is until you cash in.
This is the two different ends of the risk profile spectrum. It's very real money to me. And as you get to Dougie, it becomes a little less real. And as you get to Ceej, it's entirely fictional money. He knows that they just print more of it. It's all fake. It's all fugazi. It's a wazi. It's a woozy. And one thing that is like really, really apparent as soon as and I'm sure anyone who's been listening for the last 90 minutes has recognized, Ceej is incredibly curious. And I think really all three of us are. Like we're just driven by our natural curiosity to just like grab on to the thread and just like keep pulling at that shit. And for me, it's a little bit different, like what I'm interested in versus what Dougie's interested in versus what Ceej is interested in. But like we're all doing our thing in our own way. And then you put all of it together and you get Amit, you get Matt, you get Sam, you get Tevis, you get Tanner, you get all these guys, so you get Steve. And you put it all together, and the iron sharpens iron, and you can sort of like battle test the ideas and talk it out and say, hey, and there's also information sharing that's happening, not just debate, but information sharing where everyone's sort of like learning what they found. Hey, I went down this rabbit hole for 3 hours and I'm going to break it down, the important part in the next 10, 15 minutes.
Right. For me, like, the markets are increasingly rewarding attention right before they reward execution for me. Like, I need to be interested in here, and I get paid when they execute. And they execute because I'm paying attention to it. Otherwise, I'm just invested in everything, and I can't do that. My capital doesn't allow for that.
Let me stop you right there, because that is an excellent point, and I feel like we've got two other opposites here. So I wanna take that point and ship it to Austin and hear what Austin has to say about that. Which is because it's kind of the opposite, right? So he's found a story, and he's recognizing that the attention is where the money's going, not the execution. So companies that are executing, this is to wrap. You had the question earlier, why is Meta not getting blah, blah, blah? Because they don't have the attention, because they don't have the eyeballs. They're executing, but no one cares about that.
The narrative sucks.
They don't have. It's not even the narrative. The narrative is fine. They don't have the attention. People are used to them executing, so it's boring. You're not gonna. There's not enough alpha left.
Right.
You're not gonna 10x your money in Facebook.
Right.
So,
I
but
feel
in the world that I
specifically.
live in, so the goal with Meta is obviously not the 10x. It might over like 15, 20 years long, really long run, right? But the goal
For sure.
is that you're buying on my end of the risk spectrum where you're getting high win rates and predictable returns. You know, if you get a stock that doubles every 3 years, you take the rule of 72. 72 divided by 24 is 3 years. You only need 24% CAGR to double your portfolio every 3 years. So if you've got $1 million and you get 3 doubles, you're now at 8 million. You get a fourth double, you're at 16. And that happens every 3 years. So you can go from 1 million to 16 million in 12 years, just 4 doubles away. And it happens rather quick. So I try not to shoot for the stars, and I look at names that I feel really confident that
Right.
are going to be compounding, because what's the best way to make money, not lose money?
True.
Right? So there's that, and there's like an expected value. So if I look at a company that might be like a coin flip and say it's a 50% chance of going to 0 or a 50% chance of going to 10x, the expected value would of course be 5, right? If the stock is trading at 1, you have a 50% chance it's going to 0 and a 50% chance it's going to 10, and the expected value is somewhere in the middle. But the idea of going big on a high conviction, like it's hard to get conviction around an idea that, and I'm using crude numbers here, but versus if you compare that to an idea that maybe the slugging percentage isn't quite as good, but your win rate's a lot higher because you do have conviction that, like, are we kidding ourselves? Is Amazon going to be higher in 10 years? I mean, I don't want to give investment advice on the show because that's not what we do here, but come on, work it out. Will Amazon be higher 10 years from now? So like that's where I sit on the spectrum, because I feel like I can consistently get that return and it's more repeatable.
Right.
And if the narrative is not in the favor right now and the attention's not there, eventually the attention will come back. Right now the tide is all the way in and everyone's swimming without swim trunks. They're going all in on these photonics companies that no one even heard of 18 months ago. And eventually the tide will go back out and quality will be rewarded, execution will be rewarded.
Yes.
And that's where I want to be positioned for the long term. And one thing that Chris Hone has talked about from TCI is that a lot of these really, really excellent companies that execute time and time again and really deliver durable growth and have long evergreen growth engines to them, these businesses that just have massive TAMs, these excellent businesses, they have a perpetuity to them. They have, these certain flywheels that are just too big to be stopped. So like a good example is Meta. Meta grows users, and the users provides more advertising platform to the advertisers. When the advertisers get more money, and the platform becomes better for the users, more users come on, and more users begets more users, because and we saw this in the early stages, especially when everybody gets on Facebook. Well, then you can't develop a competitor against Facebook or Instagram because the network is there. The network effect already exists, and that effect is going to exist in perpetuity. So it's really, really hard to stop some of these awesome businesses from just continuing to win.
No, you know what? I completely agree with that. And for me, I think it was Kevin Hart. He said one of his stand-ups was, the way my pockets or the way my bank account is set up, like it doesn't allow me to like grab those great companies. Cause I mean, it's like $500 for one stock. I'm like, damn, man, that's $500, bro. Like that's a lot of bread for just one stock. And I can only get like 2 or 3 of those. But I do. The more that I grow, I shell off and I grab me some solid pillars, some companies that I know that are just absolute monsters and like behemoths that like if they fall, like maybe the whole thing falls. But I got a real question for you then, especially on the topic that we're at right now is are neo clouds actually customers or are they future competitors? Right? I mean,
To
like
who?
did Amazon accidentally like create competitors by teaching everybody how the cloud economics work? Right? And if that's true, then like could Meta be funding the next generation of these AI competitors and simply by renting them compute?
I would say no, because there's a lot of tools that go on top of providing cloud services. You can't. So, and I
But
don't mean any disrespect to the
Carp
IRA.
talked about this earlier, though. Carp talked about this earlier, where he was like, all of these companies are trying to jump up here and copy what we've been doing,
Right.
and it's producing AI slop. But you know what? A lot of people just need to check boxes. A
Now
lot of these
they'll
companies that are
eventually
out
get
there,
better at it, but
right?
and no disrespect to the IRAN people. I know there's a lot of smart IRAN longs, but taking energy that you have,
Mm,
the bricks of your building, and taking energy, plugging it into GPUs that you just bought when everyone else is buying the same GPUs, you are fulfilling an over demand right now, the supply constraint. You are sitting in the bottleneck. That bottleneck might be 18 months, it might be 5 years, it might be 8 years if AI really rips. But they'll have to build a business within that time period. They're going to be making some money from renting out these GPUs, and they need to build an actual moat, because just owning power is not a long-term moat. It's a moat right now.
right. It's a current mode for sure.
It's a current moat, but like, how long does that last? If you get SMRs up and running in 3.5 years from now, what
I'm
happens
bullish.
to that moat, right? You're bullish SMRs?
I am. I think that they're required. I think that if we're gonna have one on the moon, guess what? It's got to be an SMR. I guess when we have them in space, they got to be an SMR. When we have a 4 deployed SMRs, the game changes. That's
We're not gonna boil water on the moon.
we're gonna do something because they got to have a quantum computer on the moon. They have to. It's a must.
Yeah, but we're not gonna build conventional nuclear reactors on the moon.
Well,
They don't have water.
BWXT
You have any much
BWXT has a
water where you
really
have to move up
interesting.
there?
It has a really interesting contract for something very similar to this. It's a space it's a space reactor.
I mean, sure, there's but
Russia has some
solar energy is so plentiful in space.
maybe,
You can literally put them where there's no night,
but
and they
what?
run 24/7,
Mm,
365 with much better conversion rate than you have terrestrially.
true. But there's a lot of stuff that happens out there. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's cold. You don't need to cool things." It's like, it's different up there. Like the physics is
Yeah.
different. Like the thermodynamics is a lot different. Like the constraints and
I mean, I'm
the
not saying no nukes in space. The Orion drive is a thing.
right.
For those of you who don't know what an Orion drive is, it is literally, instead of like burning fuel and pumping hot gas out the back, you drop nuclear weapons out the back and you detonate them, and you ride the shockwave of nuclear weapons blowing up like repeatedly as you go like through space.
Right. You know, I talked with June and a gentleman by the name of Arthur. I don't know if anybody knows him.
Oh yeah, we know Arthur.
And
He was in LA.
yes, and I mentioned something that the hottest and the coldest places in the known galaxy are on planet Earth and laboratories. That's what you need to initiate fusion reactors. Is you need a laser to shine on a diamond and it ignites at a temperature that is hotter than the sun, and that's what starts the core. It's real. Kelvin is a real thing that we're pretty close to. It's pretty wild, you know. And this is this is what,
coldest place in the universe is actually in the lab. They can get it close to 0 Kelvin.
This is where my theoretical and like how I find companies. I want to find something that is like, you know, everybody. I have a theory that when people get on stage and they say that's 10 years away, you know what? It's 10 years away because they don't know how to utilize it. When it's 15 years away, it's because they don't have the partners to produce the product, and so that they have to say that because they are trying to create that infrastructure themselves. When they say it's 20 years, it's because it's not released to the public. So
I feel like at some point you're just gonna start talking about aliens, like you're so ahead of the curve.
I'm not even gripped there, but I will say this: that if for some reason aliens are proved to be real, space will blow the fuck up, and everybody will be all in on funding space because we're trying to find more creatures. I'm not mad because I'm all down for some blue biddy with 3 titties. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, let's go find them. But I mean, I really do. You know, going back to like, how do I find companies? I'm a nerd, you know, and I'm a research analyst, and I'm in the lab. You know what I mean? I'm doing things, and I grew up. My pops was had to learn English when he came to the United States. And he loved Star Trek and sci-fi and all of these wild things. And I grew up around some real interesting people. You know, I grew up around one of my dad's buddies was an SR-71 pilot. You know, I've had like individuals that, like, my father worked at BWXT after he retired from the military. So I've had a chance to be around. You know, I worked with NASA scuba divers as you know, I'm a technical diver myself. So
see,
you know,
Dougie, I'm gonna ask him about aliens off stream. I know he can't tell me.
Hey man, I watch all of the wild stuff, and I'm out there and I'm like, man, maybe, I don't know, but what I know is that all of the tech that we have is some governed. It's got a governor on it, right? I mean,
well, the most classic one is the internet, right? The internet was originally a military project, right?
I mean, yo, bro, ARPA, IPR, all of those ARPAs, NQTEL, like, yo, do you guys know that Tetris is the start of DARPA? Come on, bro. Like, this, what? Yeah, NQTEL is DARPA's investor. Like, they do what I do. They go out there and they find the wild stuff and they invest in it. So I've modeled myself off of like what I know. Hey, look, you know, for me, I don't have the money to invest in a lot of things. So I do the Warren Buffett mode. I only enter 2, 3, 4 times, and then I'm good. Hey, that's all the money I can shell in there. That's my risk tolerance. I put my confidence in this tech right here, and that ship sailed. And you know what? I mean, I got a number of like 1,000 plus. And, you know, people are like, why don't you compound? And I'm like, I don't have the bread. I can just run covered calls and fund the capital to build all these other little positions. So it keeps me nerding out without having I don't have to watch news no more. I don't have to watch cable television. I get all of my data just from watching the markets and the policy. I know what's happening already.
It's just so interesting how you can like, how many different ways you can win in the game. So like you and Chris Camillo, you guys both have like the information asymmetry thing going on, right? Like you guys are finding out, you on the government side and the contract side and the cert side, and him on like the social ARB side. You guys
Right.
are both playing information asymmetry. You're buying a name that you know has something that
Right.
nobody else has figured out yet. And
Right.
like I'm over here looking at moats and numbers, and Dougie is looking at all sorts of different things, like a combination of TA and some fundamentals and narrative and attention. It's just it's so cool how many different ways you can win the game.
Right. And you know what, to be honest, I think that a huge aspect of investing that not enough people talk about is the maturity levels upon the knowledge that you do have. And when I say sometimes I'm illiterate, I don't mean that like I can't understand things. It's just that like, hey, I haven't stepped in that arena yet. And so like I may be illiterate in like the facts of margin and how they've established this position. And I may be illiterate of like valuing that per se because I don't have the value to establish myself in that position. But once I get into those positions, that's why I buy like one or two. You know, I every week I buy point one of the SPY. I can't buy one of the SPY every week, especially right now. So I buy point one. It reinforces like what you do, Austin, like the solid plays, right? Like the tried and true methods, and you have the ability to, hey, that's what you do for a profession. You know the angles already. You are highly literate in those areas. So I borrow those aspects on the percentages that I can. And you know what? It keeps me from having to worry about FOMO because no matter what anybody tells you about how to invest in the game, it's the psychology of how you invest. And a lot of people invest without thinking about psychology. And then they go into a psychosis the moment that the market goes 5% down. And they're like, oh my God, the sky's falling. And I'm like, yo, stop buying at the top and like learn to like hold some cash and some revenues or buy early and, you know, have some balls. Put your money where your mouth is and like go in. You know what I mean? Like go in if you feel like it. No, I'm going to wait for a dip or I'm going to no, just go in. Like if you've got the position, you've already calculated, get your Warren Buffett on and get those 2, 3 entries and just sit. Now you control the company. For real. I mean, I have to like think, where do I get my philosophy from? Well, I like some Warren Buffett. I also like all of the gangster movies where it's the old guy that's alive, right? All the young bucks that are trying to be the kingpin and trying to be the Godfather get offed quick.
Hey, beware the old men in a sport where where men die young.
You know, the bag man, grab the bag and go away. And I'm cool with that. Give me my little bag and I'll go away. You know, I'm on the Iliad and the Odyssey. But right now, a lot of my companies are out there on their voyage. You know what I mean? Like they're out there battling the sirens. They're out there with the Cyclops and they're coming back home and they're bringing the bag back to daddy, bro. I mean, like, it's a wonderful feeling to be like, you know what? I don't even know what FOMO is in the stock markets.
And the return profiles are going to be entirely different too. Like my beta is going to be way lower than your beta because your name might bleed out to 65-70% for 2 years, and then all of a sudden, like they get an approval, they get a contract. Exactly, Bing is the word. Or in honor of the NBA Finals and Mark Green, bang. You know, so it's just going to look different because mine might be steady Eddie up and to the right, where I'm willing to get rich slowly, whereas like your names, you know, they might pay out 18 months from now, it might be 8 years, but either way, like it's going in that direction.
Right. I'm patient, you know, and I like to live comfortably. You know, I can do bougie or I can do beach bum. Like it's all a relative aspect of um understanding what wealth is. I haven't come from wealth, right? Like I come from you know, I immigrated to the United States when I was young. I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. So I understand what like real hard work is. Like I've watched it, but I didn't learn anything. You know, my parents were never like get a credit card. They were like, no, I don't fuck with that. You know, like don't be trying to do any of this, that, and the third. My family didn't really invest. Um, so for me, it's kind of like I don't pay myself yet off of the markets. I haven't. I'm now debt free. You know, I messed around and I had some covered calls that I didn't understand how to roll. I hadn't watched Amit's options 101 part 1 and part 2. If anybody out there wants to know about options, please go watch my man's video. Like it will square you away and you will understand. And Dougie even helped me out with this. Like he was like, just let him get called. That's a victory. And you know what? I changed the way that I thought about it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I got 2,000 shares called away of Rocket Lab when it just went through its run at like 70, 80, and $90. And that sucker ran. But you know what? I'm debt free. Um, and I had a lot of capital to throw into the market and build some other positions that are doing outstanding for me. And that's kind of like the way that the market is. It'll treat you if you treat it. And I think that it goes down to like solid DD, and our community is so good with it. Even our little silly draft competitions, like it'll teach you, like if you look at other people's plays and you're like scratching my chin, like why did they pick that one, let me look at this company. Oh wow, that's interesting, I never even knew anything about that atmosphere, uh and sometimes some of the ticker names are too good to like not check out, and that's how I've like nerded out and found a couple of companies, and it's taught me about different industries, things that I would never been literate on. And uh needless to say, like to anybody who might be watching, you've got a wealth of knowledge from everybody that's here. And if you happen to be in the chat, man, speak up and ask some questions sometimes, because I know I do. I probably annoy at least 70% of the people in there. Like, this motherfucker don't stop talking. But I'm like, hey, guys, I'm learning. We're all nerding out, and everybody in here is we all addicted to the game,
I think half of the podcast is me asking Dougie technical questions, because like I might be financially literate, but like technically literate is a different thing. Being scientifically literate, different thing, right?
Right. But you know what? I hope everybody has a chance to meet both of you guys, and Dougie especially. Like, I mean, Dougie is great, bro. Like anybody that gets around Dougie, I mean, his outfits are a smash. Like if you come to an event meetup, don't think that like, yo, your outfit's gonna be fly. Like Dougie's gonna flex on you real quick, and it's gonna be lovely. And you need to go get a picture with him and be like, yo, you know what? I thought I was coming up there gonna be like popping collars and stuff, but like, no, my man was like ready to go. And so it's like that cool of an environment where everybody can kind of be themselves and grow. And you got to be careful in the markets, right? You got to be careful in the groups that you get into. You never know who you might roll into. Somebody might be like some swift cat out there and try to swindle a whole bunch of folks. But intuition is real, and you know what, like cheers to the group for real, man. Like there's so much wealth within the wealth that people have both obtained, spent, and lost, and it's all part of the game. Like losses are a big aspect of the game that nobody really like talks about. If you have a big loss and you got a lot of gains and you got taxes coming up, like yo, look at the big companies. Like they take losses. The big winners, they take the losses. They have the L's. They saving them. They don't just always wash all of their losers away. They save them for those years where they really really need them. And they're like, damn, I'm gonna let this bitch go down another 50%.
So one of these days, when I'm no longer working in the industry that I'm working in, say I've retired, let's fast forward to whenever that happens, I would like to do some more talk on the topic of taxes. It's
Right.
extremely high risk to touch on because of the consequence of getting them wrong. But selling shares at a loss to cross out any gains that you had that year in the right instance can be so beneficial. And a lot of times I'll have names that I have a good idea that are going to be a bigger winner that I will actually put in an IRA, a tax-free account, and I'll put the higher beta names like a Palantir in a Roth, in a traditional IRA, or even the 401k instead of the individual, because I know that I'm not going to be selling Palantir.
Right.
I know I'm just going to be holding it. But if it's a name like MasterCard that I am going to be holding short term, and I know that that's going to be my flex position, like I'm going to be buying a car here soon, I just sold
Right.
$16,000 of MasterCard. That it was all in my individual account because I planned that out ahead of time. I don't want to be selling Palantir shares at a 2,000% gain to buy a down payment on a house, to buy a car, kids' tuition, any of that stuff. I want to be selling shares that don't have capital gain on them, ideally.
Right.
Right? Like
Right
why would
Right
I right
now.
now? Why would I want to
Yeah.
be paying tons of taxes that I don't need to be? So if I'm going to be selling, I
Well,
want to try and find
without
something
it
that's
being
gonna have a
financial
lower
advice,
tax consequence.
without it being financial advice, it's
Yes.
worth considering blending that in, because you're gonna have to take that cap gains hit sooner or later.
Sooner or
Better
later.
to blend it in and eat it slowly than be in a position where it's your last $16,000 you have to sell and you have to take the whole cap gains hit all at once.
Right. MasterCard is an interesting one right now too.
Yeah, historically cheap. And I think a lot of the risk to the name are overstated. There's been a lot of talk about stable coins, and the volumes don't lie. Like MasterCard's volumes and Visa's volumes and American Express volumes, the network volumes just keep going up. MasterCard has value-added services growing above 20%, which is now 40% of the revenue. So almost half of the business is now growing at 20%. That has nothing to do with payments. The other thing is like, oh yeah, we're going to use stable coins to get rid of the payment network and no one's going to need Visa and MasterCard. So you go to the store and you buy something, you give them your SoFi USD coin, and then you walk away and you realize that they gave you the wrong product and now you need to dispute that with the merchant. Visa and MasterCard handle that shit. That's what they do.
Oh yeah, that's why when I make a big purchase, I make it with my Amex, because even if that company doesn't necessarily have a return policy, Amex goes to battle for me because, hey, I wasn't satisfied, or like your guys' product was defective for me,
Yeah, a lot of people are underestimating the value that the payment rails, the intermediaries, the toll booths, if you will, as Chris Owen likes to say, the toll booths, like it's not going away anytime soon. And the narrative on crypto, if you like look in the X community, the stock picker community, the crypto people, all the young guys, let's just say like young guys, like who are interested in technology and money, they sometimes get in a little bit of like a bubble where they think that everyone thinks how their echo chamber thinks. But go ask someone, like go ask a pretty 25-year-old girl, go ask a mom who lives in the suburbs with 2 kids, go ask a construction worker, go ask those 3 like normal people who like, hey, would you use this stable coin? And they would be like, why do I need to use that? Like, what's the upside for me to use that? I like my credit card rewards. Right. I have the consumer protection of it. Like my money's safe. I know I don't get it stolen. And if someone does steal my credit card, I can cancel it out and a new one will be there in 3 days. Like they have all those ducks in a row and the relationships with the bank to clean it all up. Like this is a really, really, really solid note. I know I just said that I sold $16,000 to buy a car. That wasn't financial advice. That was that was living life. But I might back into it. But like, I think people sometimes, put the cart ahead of the horse when it comes to like a new technology. That if you actually look at the adoption rate, it tells a little bit of a different story. And I think eventually it does get there, but you need a more compelling pitch than the one that currently exists.
I mean, hey, I got MasterCard in the stock draft, in the 2026 stock draft for specific reasons. Like, when you talk about growth versus value, like which one is more important, I think that my angle on that is which businesses have the least technological risk. And I think that MasterCard is kind of like one of those ones, because MasterCard doesn't care which AI wins. They get paid. They get paid either way. Like, Semi's got to stay on the cutting edge. MCOs don't care about which AI wins. SPGI doesn't care about which ones win. Like, it really comes...
Moody's and S&P Global, to translate for the people who don't follow value names.
Right. And for me, not being able to like get into value names, I still pay attention. Right? Like I still want to know what are the safe plays? What is the educated investor? What is the person who is out there and like really has to manage a portfolio? What are they really looking at, right?
The
Versus
institutional
me.
guys who have tens of
Yes,
billions.
yes,
Yeah.
because I think that that's an incredible aspect that uh, too many retail investors just don't pay attention to because we've been blessed to be in this era right now investing where shit just goes up in 6 months, and you're like, damn, my year to date is a freaking 85 this year, and you're just like, wow. And then somebody from 10 years ago was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like I ain't never made no gains like that. But yet they may have been playing by the rules, doing all of the smart stuff, and getting 13% back on the year, and that's a great year for them. So I do try and like stay abreast to what is the conscious by the books. Might have to follow some guidelines. There might be some rules behind it. Maybe they got the CPA license. They're actually managing equities safe and smart, because a lot of us retail investors are definitely not doing safe and smart. We're buying high, and we're giving the buyers a discount when we sell on a dip. I mean, the shaking of the tree is a real thing. So
Yeah, I would say generally that's correct. There's a little bit more buying into the vision and being a little bit more valuation blind,
right.
And also being a little bit more emotional. I would say those are probably like three of the biggest like retail L's that
I
they
think
could work on.
the emotional aspect is a big thing, and I think too with how fast we get the info uh allows for the emotional, like I got the anxiety of it all, and I don't know, I got to sell something so I can buy something, and it's kind of like, are investors being compensated enough for the technological risk? I mean, I really had to sit back and kind of like think about that a little bit, to where, you know, uh, throughout, I really like Ray Dalio because he's historically, analytically correct with looking at the past. What happened in the past is going to tell me what could possibly happen or what should happen in the future. Because there's not enough. Well, maybe there are changes now, but there's not like a huge avenue or highway, I should say, for a drastic change to where the history doesn't matter anymore. Maybe it seemed like that for the last 3 or 4 years, but uh, things may come back, and you know the biggest fortunes are made by financing, ensuring and tax innovation rather than creating it. And now we might just start getting onto the cusp of like really creating like the biggest fortunes. Like we're right here, and there's only a handful of them. Like, once we get one trillionaire, another one's gonna pop up, and then once you get a few trillionaires, it's governments don't matter anymore. Like rules and regulations start to like quickly get um
You're talking about basically the government turns into a corpo state, essentially.
I mean, you start to get these cats that get to do like what they want to do. Like, hey, you know what? Screw you guys. We're bringing these asteroids actually into orbit around the moon so that we can just mine them and get all these crazy rare minerals. And y'all ain't gonna say shit because nobody's ever done it before, but yet we broke ground, so we get to write the rules. That's kind of what Elon's done. You know what I mean? Like Elon's gotten to write the books because nobody in the rocket industry in the United States has been able to use a US rocket, because they've all been Russian Sputnik rockets. Prior to the first invasion of Russia, which gave the sanctions to where the United States and all NATO countries weren't allowed to use Sputnik rockets anymore. He got to write the rules because we're like, oh shit, we can't do it, but he can. So he gets to come up with the playbook here because there are no regulations against it, but he's doing it. He's successful at it. So, investing is a goal and a gamble. Like it's all a gamble. You don't know what's going to happen, but
it's certainly probabilistic at a minimum.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, investing always starts with a mission, and gambling is just the first entry. That's your biggest gamble right there. It's just the initial one. That's why I say, like, yo, just like, you know, pull your skirt up, to get in there. Like do the business. Bite on a company. If you're worried about it, yo, just go buy one and watch it.
Listen to the earnings calls. Read the reports.
I think that's key.
Look at the pipeline. Figure out how much money they're making. How much are they losing? Right. Are they diluting, or are they paying dividends? Like what part of the business cycle are they in? Are they profitable, or are they not profitable? Are they in the S&P? Are they going to be eligible soon? Right. What's the institutional volume? Like, are institutions buying? Are they selling? Are they drastically underweight, or are they like already overweight and they have everything that they need? Like, is the founder like IBKR? He owns 75% of the shares or something like that of IBKR. Shit. Is there like is there a main risk to like one person owning all the shares? Is there key man risk, right? Like Tesla, they got Elon. Like, what happens to the company if something happens to Elon? So like, you have to dig at all this different data.
Security is an interesting aspect, and I don't think that we live in a bubble of sorts, right? Like, we don't think that like these large quote unquote Sigma events can happen, and that's one catalyst after another that are devastating, right? Like we think that like, COVID happened, it is just COVID, or this happened, but sometimes things have the domino effect, and that's kind of like where you have to start looking at what you're talking about, like the risks of how invested and how the percentages work and everything like that. So it's been a great journey. It's taught me about so many things, and the analogous aspects. Like, life is really options. Everything is options. I mean, I sat down one day and I was just thinking, you know what? I still haven't done an actual call or a put. I only mess with covered calls or cash secured puts. I'm like, man, I ain't ready to really gamble, and I don't really understand them too much. Like, I want to make sure that, like, hey, when I do a covered call, sometimes I just put a ridiculous price. I'm like, you know what? If it gets called away at 300%, like, that's a win for me. I'm good.
Exactly. Like Dougie, like you were mentioning, Dougie said earlier, if you say the stock is at 80 and you sell a covered call at 130, you get premium and you get the appreciation from 80 to 130, and you get to keep the premium, and then your shares get cashed out for $13,000. You won the trade. That was the maximum profit of the trade. Was you got the premium and you got your shares called away at the maximum possible profit. You cannot get upset that you sold covered calls and then had the maximum profit happen. A lot of people do, because like their covered calls will get ran over, and then they're like, oh my gosh, had I just held the long shares? But like, if you held the shares, then you held the shares and you get the upside and the downside. If you sell the covered call, you should know going into the trade what your maximum profit is. And then if you achieve maximum profit, there's nothing you can be upset about. That's my covered call tirade. Well, I think we've been going for a little bit of like 2 hours,
can you hear me?
18 minutes. Yeah, I can hear you now. You were on a mute, but I think we're ready to wrap up because Doug had to go.
I do, man.
I think we're all just sort of ready to wrap up here. So thanks everyone who joined. Ceej, we were really, really happy to have you on. We got to ask lots of questions that we've been dying to ask for probably like a few months now. So thanks for joining. You're welcome on to the show anytime. Thanks everyone for joining. This was Money Mobsters 21. We are out.